Apple,
Yeah,
the number one talked about stock on Market Mondays.
it's a big week.
So Apple has lost 200 billion. Well, last week it lost 200 billion in 2 days after reports of iPhone ban in China. So in a significant downturn, Apple's market value was decimated by 200 billion in the span of 2 days. This decline is connected to the emerging reports surrounding a potential ban of iPhone sales in China, a critical market for the tech giant. The news is evidently caused unrest among investors, resulting in a sell-off that negatively impacted Apple stock value last week for sure. While the ramifications of such ban are not clear at the moment, the market reaction reflects concerns over the sustainable role of the Chinese play in Apple's revenue stream. So this is something that is extremely concerning for the tech industry and Apple shareholders. So what does this mean?
It's pretty interesting, right? A company loses 200 billion and it doesn't feel like this is the end of the world. It doesn't even feel like this is like super major. I think the bigger part of the issue is what the Chinese government has done, because I think that speaks higher volumes. And so the agency, they are telling pretty much their citizens to refrain from using Apple iPhones and other foreign-based brands for work or bringing them into the office as a part of a broader effort to reduce the reliance on foreign technology. I think that's the piece that is interesting, right? They're trying to make sure that their citizens don't use foreign technology. So Apple, of course, is part of that. I think that's the bigger play. The 200 billion, yes, there's nothing to sneeze at, but for a company like Apple, I'm not sure how much of a detriment it is. Now, if that ban stays in place, that's going to affect a lot of companies and a lot of businesses, Apple being one. But the other side of it is that while they're telling you to not use the iPhone and they're trying to ban the use of it in the workplace, they've announced the new Huawei phone.
What do you know?
This is, I mean, the timing of this is impeccable, right? You put the ban in place on Thursday. You announce Chinese manufacturer Huawei, which is probably the biggest phone tech company in China. They announced their new phone that's coming out, the Mate 60 Pro smartphone. And so you talk about all the great features that it has. You want them to stop relying on foreign-based technology. Well, here comes our technology. I mean, from a standpoint of media and spreading propaganda, the sales of the Huawei phone were great. And part of it had to do with the announcement of, hey, we want you to stop using that American phone.
Huawei spelled with an H.
Yes.
Huawei.
Yes.
Huawei.
Correct.
Yes. I don't want to sneeze at a $200 billion loss, but for context, this is like a Lucid Motors or a Snapchat. I want everyone right now in chat to go Google what is the annual revenue of AirPods. So even if this ban does last for a little bit longer, when the AirPods are producing more revenue than Adobe, I'm not as worried. The part that does has me concerned is that China is starting to counteract some of the things that we were doing. So when we blocked Huawei last year, it is
2 years ago.
Or 2 years ago, yeah, it's right on the enterprise side and on the government side that they block our iPhones. But an Apple's chess move, I was telling someone this, I think on your post, this is why Apple has slowly built a regime in manufacturing in India. And it may take 3 years for that to be fully in swing. But when war benefits nobody but armament dealers, but if you're going to go to war, you're going to have to know who your allies are and where you're going to be able to replace that revenue. They're going to be able to replace that revenue in India. The third point I want to make, this is really just, yes, it factored in, but it wasn't the catalyst that caused it to fall. When Apple hit a high a couple months ago, 194.50, and it retested last week at 189 and some change, the market is just like, everything is like 95% to 97% off of its highs. We're just seeing a pullback overall, and there's a lot of geopolitical concern that we have. Even with the ARM IPO, which we'll talk about later, the biggest issue that I have there is that the exposure to China. Same with Taiwan Semiconductor. We'll talk about it later. The only reason I haven't liked them more than NVIDIA, and NVIDIA was the greatest benefactor there, is because of the exposure and potential war with China. If that was not there, TSM would have probably been up 500%. this year. So in the grand scheme of things, am I worried about a $200 billion loss in Apple when they find a way to charge your card in the middle of the night for all those services that you get out the App Store? No. The AirPod revenue is there, but I do think we have to find ways to be able to get along with the superpowers that are China, India, which does not care about globalism as much as we do, and a couple other emerging markets as well, especially the supercontinent of Africa. We have to have good geopolitical tact there in order for business to continue to thrive. For everyone who's asking, is this the time to get out of Apple? I'll buy all your shares off you. No, now's not the time.
Yeah. I mean, so we're seeing it now with Apple, but if you think back earlier in the year when America government said that they told NVIDIA, hey, we got to slow down on the sales of our chips to the Chinese population because we don't want them getting technologically advanced. So you think about that. That's part of it as well. And so even inside of the Huawei phone, they're not using NVIDIA chips. They're using chips that are made specifically, semis that are made from Chinese companies.
Yep.
So you're starting to see like these geopolitical issues spill into the companies that we know very well.
You can't invest in Huawei. It's not a publicly traded stock, right?
I don't think we can. No,
it's not.
No.
So for anybody that's interested in learning more about that company, you want to give them any more insight on that?
Huawei, the Apple of China, pretty much. That would be the easiest like tagline, if you will, for them. Well-designed phones, maybe even has an edge on Apple. If Samsung had a sister company in terms of like technological innovation, Huawei would be it. But this is chess and war games now through tech. We've talked about it before. These wars are not going to be fought with boots on the ground. It's going to be fought with AI, intelligence, and programming a nation how to feel about something. And the truth is, it was a mistake for long ago for America to ship all of its jobs over to India and China while not telling African Americans and brown people there are no jobs available for you. Now you've built up a superpower who wants to come and destroy you when you could have taken care of your own. To every economist, they cannot tell me that it is better fit for the economy to outsource jobs to another country that does not pay taxes here opposed to taking care of its own people. Majority of the brands that are going through a lot of drama right now and trauma did not take care of did not take care of the African American community like Adam 22. I'm sorry for whatever you were going through last week. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. But we need to start having an index on companies that actually treat us well because it's starting to have an economic impact on the bottom line.
Are you going to actually see Adam 22?
Yeah, he had a little issue last week. He had a little PR issue. So I'm going to go see him in 2 weeks.
See him for what? You're doing a show?
Yeah, I'm doing an interview.
Okay.
Shout to Flacco. Y'all want to come?
Pause.
Big pause. Especially on that show. And don't have Lena on set. It ain't that type of show. It's not that type of show. Shout to your queen and all that, but no.
Shout out to your queen.
Okay. So is this an opportunity to buy Apple stock?
I believe so. Not at this price. I like it. Stock Club, don't kill me. If it gets to like 171 or 163, I like it at the area. But no one that is an investor long term, even though it's a boring company, quote unquote, we talk about it all the time. No one can name me 9 better companies than Apple, internationally or domestically. Once again, put in chat, what is the revenue of AirPod? My number one thing that filter for everyone who asks me about a company, is your company making more revenue than AirPods?
That's the word. That's the wearable section, y'all.
Yeah, it's like when you go to that wearable section, and regardless of what the operating expenses are, they are making a killing
billions
off of AirPods alone. More than Adobe. They're out doing Snapchat. So like all the fringe brands that were doing good in 2020 and 2021 that are no longer doing good. Once again, I'll say it, it's a noble concept. The company that makes the most money, that has the best profit margin, should be the most heralded publicly traded company of all time, and it should make you money. So
yeah, you know what, we should also pay attention, right? Like, yes, it's the 200 billion, but last quarter, in the past 2 quarters, we have seen a decline in the sales of the iPhone, which we should take note of. Like, we've seen that has happened. The number one leader as far as the ecosystem inside of Apple is the iPhone. Over 50% of its revenue comes from that.
Yeah,
tomorrow's a huge day. Like, we can't looked at. Tomorrow's a huge day. Tomorrow they're going to be announcing the innovation, right? Whether it's the iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max. I know there's some new watches, and maybe they'll have a new iPad. Let's see what the innovation looks like, because 3 to 4 quarters of negative sales on the iPhone, it'll affect the company. I mean, it's impossible for it not to. So let's just be mindful of that.
I agree. I'm not being flippant on it. I mean, as far as the innovation, I'm gonna call cap on that. I don't think the 15 gonna be too innovative. I haven't heard anybody say anything of any features. Where
are the leaks? I haven't even seen any leaks.
Listen, when nobody's leaking the album, that's when you know the album trash.
Yeah, they got the event tomorrow. Wanderlust, I believe it's called. That's the release of the iPhone 15. Or they gonna talk about it. So you're not excited. You don't think that's gonna move the stock at all?
No, I would be lying if I. Regardless of my love for Apple, I'm always going to be honest. I don't think it's going to be that much different than a 14.
Yeah.
Well, Apple,
better camera, slightly better camera.
Yeah.
Usually they'll start releasing. I mean, probably at the end of September, we'll probably hear more about it, the pre-sale numbers or the pre-sale orders, and that'll give you a fair indication that'll go into Q4 sales.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard any. Like you said, I haven't even seen any leaks that this is the new feature. Or
no rumblings. There
hasn't been any rumbling. So,
I mean, they need a whole new. It's like putting out the same pair of Jordans every year with different colorway. Yep. Eventually, it just doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, they probably have to just revolutionize their whole thing and come up with a whole completely new product, because it's not really moving the needle. It's just the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
People gonna buy it. You gotta buy it. You have no choice but to buy it.
But people are holding on to their phones longer, though, right? So, like, the person, like, you might have the 13. I might have the 14. People are looking at the 15 and saying, I'm not buying that. I'm loyal to the phone that I have. It's pretty good. The camera's not going to be that much better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. There needs to be something that's innovative. I just don't think this is going to be the one, which could be an indicator that shows slower sales again in the iPhone.
2 things. Apple corporate needs to bring Johnny Ive back or someone of his stature to begin to design products, because from an operations standpoint, you can only enhance profit margin, price points so much. You have to, at some point, please write this in chat, you have to have an irresistible offer that nobody can deny. Like, regardless of what people think about, did he giving away $1 million? It's like $1 million is $1 million bucks. That's amazing. That is newsworthy. iPhone has not had a significant upgrade in a long, maybe 5 or 6 years. It is time. Got to bring some key people back. I think Johnny Ive, I know he's still in this consultant role, but they need to find a way to integrate him back and begin to focus a lot more on innovation. Wearables is doing great, but they still need a lot more development on our product side before they eventually get into healthcare.
Yeah. And the Vision Pro isn't until next year. I think pre-orders might be starting this year, though, but it doesn't come out till next year.